Root causes of poor health and why they're easy to miss. So one of the things that a lot of people say in here is that I just have bad luck. That's why my health's bad. Genetically, I'm unhealthy. I have a poor metabolic health situation. I have underlying causes of poor mental health that run in my family again. So is this all true? Absolutely not. Everybody can have ideal health. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't genetic traits that other people are going to have that you don't have. I think we put a lot of it on genetics as an excuse to be like, this is the way I am, so I'm going to keep living the way I do. I find that more genetically, it's more that we have learned habits from our mother and our grandmother as they taught our wives how to cook or us how to cook. And those things carry on down really heavily. And we can even look at a diet situation, and even in the diet, there may be nutritional deficiencies or just bad diet. You'll be surprised if you actually look at it generationally how some of that stuff has passed along. So I'm going to show you and talk to you about how to overcome some of the most common health problems that are overlooked and the root causes that are overlooked. In our last video, we talked about common symptoms that people don't think may be an issue, that are a check engine light for the body, telling us that something is wrong and that we should be addressing. And instead, we just ignore it because we don't think that check engine light is really important. Then we find that it gets us in trouble, and then we find ourselves in for major repair. Remembering, even if we're not in a position of needing major repair right now, or we are in a position of needing major repair, we all have to take care of these foundational problems, which we're going to go over in just a second. Focusing on the symptom doesn't always get you the results you want. As for example, heartburn. If we reduce the acid in the stomach, that doesn't resolve the heartburn. It may temporarily, but you have a bigger problem. And usually that goes back to liver and gall function or an imbalance in microflora in the gut. So we always don't want to focus on just a symptom because causation may be broader than that. Okay, buckle up. We're going to go through these fast. First, we're going to talk about root causes that may not seem clear to everybody. But the first thing would be poor nutrition. Okay, our diet does not have the same minerals and vitamins that it used to. And so one of the key things that we're going to have to get used to the idea is there's going to have to be a minimum supplementation to maintain health in the American diet. I can't tell you how many practitioners and doctors outside of the US that live in coastal regions or more fertile areas where they have regenerative farming, and they're like, if we're going to help people in the US, the diet has to be addressed. You're going to have to take a supplement because they say Americans don't have the same value in food as they do in other places of the world. So that's something to consider. So nutritional deficiencies in food. Overprocessed foods are going to become a problem in that same category. Overprocessed foods, a lot of the things that had higher nutrition were removed because if you remove those, the foods don't go bad as quickly. They stay on the shelf longer. And one of the other myths that come with food is especially with kids, they're like, oh, let them have all the sugar they want and goodies. They're just going to run it off anyways. America has the largest obesity child rate in the globe. Let's stop and think about that a little bit. We love our kids. We love ourselves. One day our kids are going to be in our situation trying to improve their health. And they're going to think, boy, did mom and dad care enough to even try to curtail all the junk food I was getting? I know, that's hard medicine. Another super common root cause that we're going to address, every one of these root causes we're going to address in the 8-week Jumpstart program, but chronic stress and adrenal fatigue. This can come, again, from contribution of diet, but it can also be an overload in our work environment, our home environment. But if we don't have the nutritional support we need, our adrenal glands begin to become fatigued. Then we get adrenal dysfunction, and then our stress goes through the roof. And then we always feel like life's pressing upon us and there is no escape. And then depression, anxiety, insomnia, and just feelings of stress all set in, and we don't know what to do about it. And the next thing we're trying to do is go take pharmaceutical drugs that have more side effects. And so when really the problem drove back to maybe some habits, but then specific nutrition. And so now we're in a position, most Americans are in a position where they need strong herbal supplemental support to build their body rapidly and get the adrenal glands back to where they need to be so they can function without those symptoms. Again, the topic nobody wants to talk about, digestive health. Probably because when we talk about digestive health, that's mostly about the bathroom. Okay, constipation, diarrhea, heartburn. Those are all things, but what are the root cause of that? Too much toxins. Again, that could come from a diet that is really poor and has toxins and food additives that can destroy the gut. And then the other thing that can be is actually parasites or a yeast fungal overgrowth that produce toxins, and then your body has to deal with it. And if we're not eliminating them, then we absorb the toxins, and then our body has to then re-eliminate them. And it all happens in the digestive tract. If we're eliminating toxins and reabsorbing them, we get stuck in this loop. And then everything suffers. The digestive tract suffers, the liver suffers, the kidneys suffer, our brains suffer because of it usually causes brain fog. But then our stress levels begin to suffer because what happens is those toxins get in the way of hormones and neurotransmitters, and those things don't work well, and then our energy production is hampered. So toxins, and believe it or not, there are a lot of parasites, especially in North America and America, because we don't test for them, when other countries assume they're there and they just treat for them. There's many different ways to treat for them. We'll go into more details in parasites later. Okay, the old myth that says we shouldn't have a lot of salt. Well, there's a bunch of salts. There's like five. You got calcium chloride, potassium chloride, magnesium chloride. The list goes on. Here's my point: sodium chloride. White table salt is one of those minerals, and your body wants a whole handful of these trace minerals. And if you're not getting the other minerals, it concentrates sodium chloride. And then sodium chloride goes in your body. And then you retain water. And then your joints hurt. And then you have high blood pressure. Yeah, you can still get too much good salts, but most of the time people aren't getting enough magnesium, potassium, calcium, chlorides, trace minerals. And that's hampering. Throw out the white table salt. Get you some pink Himalayan salt that's of quality. We like the Redmond real salt. It's created in Utah. It's it's something that's in our back door, so to speak, and we know that there's a good quality there. So why are minerals important? One, root cause problem. We don't have enough minerals. And two, did you know when we say drink water so you can flush toxins, that's only half of the process of getting rid of toxins. The other process is the minerals that go with the water. The water carries the minerals in, grabs the toxins, goes through the kidneys and out the body, dumping them. Even healthy, conscious people start drinking a lot of water, trying to flush their body, and they flush the salts out. And then they're mineral deficient, and then they get muscle aches, fatigue, cramps. Kidney function doesn't work. Kidney infections are a higher risk because our body uses those minerals in the kidneys, and salts are hard on bacteria, and if you don't have enough salts in the urinary tract, you're susceptible to the urinary tract infection. My point to this is the human body is meant to run on minerals. It's also meant to run on water, have healthy, good amounts of water accompanied with your salts. One of the other things is that we're sedentary. We don't move enough. We need to go out for a walk. One of the best ways to do a walk is plan a walk after a meal, ideally after every meal, 10-minute walk. A 10-minute walk after each meal can lower your blood sugars 10 to 20 points. That has the potential of creating a difference in blood sugar to reduce insulin resistance. It helps clear the mind and stops you from feeling fatigued after meals, assuming you're not like eating a ton of sugar. There's a limit within there. But going for a walk after meal is one of the healthiest ways to help detox the body and get it moving and creating good energy. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about, I've already kind of said it, parasites. This is such an under evaluated point of health. Most people have parasites, again, bacterial or larger things, but most of the time in the US we're seeing a parasite load that's bacterial, and so there's not a lot of symptoms with that. We clean those up, and our digestive tract will do better, our liver will do better, our energy will do better, our head will do better. Sadly, if you've got indoor pets, your pets are going to give you parasites. They run out into another environment and they want to lick and taste everything, including the neighbor's animal scat. Now, some of you may say, well, my pets don't do that, but we really should be worming and tending to our indoor animals and outdoor animals probably more often than we are because it shows up so prevalently. And you know, these pets are family in some cases. I'm not saying get rid of them, but there are times and conditions where emergency necessity may indicate that we need to find a loving home for pets if we're not able to care for them in the ways that we should. Parasites, 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 parasites. We have a parasite protocol in that grand, but guess what? Most of that parasite protocol is wrapped into our 8-week jumpstart program. Most parasites can be totally eliminated in 8 weeks. Parasites grow in stages of 30 days. They lay a cyst or an egg. That gestation cycle goes through, and parasites are not susceptible to either medication or herbs until they're into a certain developmental stage. But in the some juvenile stages, they're not susceptible at all. So you have to be on the parasite formulas long enough for those parasites to go through those phases of growth so that they can be killed and eliminated. I recommend that everybody does a parasite cleanse. My parasite cleanses aren't sitting on the toilet for 3 days. My parasite cleanses are very gentle, and it's something that you do for a 2-month span. And I prefer you do it every fall. If you're just getting going, every fall and spring. In rare cases where parasites are more of an extreme thing, somebody may stay on some type of a parasite formula that is designed for long-term use for up to 8 to 10 months, maybe even a year. And that's because parasites, when they've been in the body for a long time, the body begins to calcify the cysts and they start to put them in a protein layer and isolate them from the body so there's no more damage. But then as you start to get well, it takes time for those protein layers to break down so that they are susceptible to treatment. So I know that 14-day parasite cleanse probably really didn't get you all the way clean. Isn't that horrible? All right, we're going to go over why are some of these things so overlooked. Well, blood tests specifically for parasites aren't super accurate. In a lot of colder states, they don't even run for parasites in their testing. Now, if you get in more tropical southern states of the U.S., they maybe test more, or they say, hey, you have this problem, let's try this anti-parasite medication. And if it works, great, that was it. So, you know, blood tests are great and they're super valuable, and I wouldn't give them up, but not all blood tests are as good as we would like to think. We think of them as this optimum gold standard, but there's still limitations in there. Okay, now you know what the root cause problems are. In our next video, we're going to teach you a little bit more how to address those. Yeah, we've touched on some basics there, but you know, going over the root causes of what people are considering normal is not normal. Now you know what to identify in your body and say, hey, maybe there is something that we need to do, and maybe we need to get ahead of this problem so that we're doing maintenance instead of, you know, catastrophic repair. So if you haven't already got the 8-week jumpstart, guess what? It's free, folks. The supplements aren't, but all the information that teaches you how to use them and why you're using the supplements, it's free. You might as well hop onto my website, chformulas.com, and get it, and you know, benefit you and your family. Subscribe so you can learn more tips and tricks about your health, and take time to watch the next video. So we'll see you there.